I'll ask the other two speakers to come up, and then we can do the round table. One quick question on the TN visa program. On that program, do those guys have to go back at some point, right?
Normally every year they have to go back and renew. They can go back every third year, but usually when they come back across, they only approve it for 1 year. That's about a 2 to 3 week process to get that done.
So you just have extra employees in that time. All right. Any questions for the group here? Yep.
To follow up on, I think, with Shan's question on from Daryl.
Just a minute.
Sorry. The good thing about the batch is, barring a disaster, you can look into 10 years and figure out when your slow times are for vacation scheduling and things like that. So you can tell me your wean date in November of 2030, theoretically. And that's really nice for people when they try to plan.
I totally agree.
Yeah. Like I say, I don't deal with that. Yeah. Great question. I just don't have to deal with it.
Okay, I've got a question for you, Daryl. One of the concerns that we've seen in some of the farms that are on an independent, they're just a single farm running the batch. And so one of the challenges is I've got a new person, and this is the first time they've ever processed pigs or farrowed pigs, and they get like breed pigs, they get like 3 days to learn it, and then they don't get to learn for 28 days. You got a long time in between learning events. How are you handling that?
Yeah, no question. I mean, you're having some time between it. I think the real advantage we've seen, though, Paul, is that everybody's out there doing it together. I mean, when we're breeding on farms, I would say there's on this 2,400, they're going to have 10 people there because we're sharing. There's only 2 people off doing other things. 8 people are out breeding. It's a mentoring program that somebody is right there beside him doing it. I'm more concerned on the continuous flow pigs when you're in that situation, and that guy's all off by himself, and he's stuck in a room, and guess what? You're going to process pigs, and he has no flipping idea what he's doing. He's all by himself. When they're processing, on all these farms, we put in 2 of the processing carts. So we have 2 of the carts that have the automatic vaccinations on them. So they work in teams of 2. So there's always 4 people in processing when they're processing. Nobody really has the opportunity. If you aren't learning from that situation, you got somebody right there teaching you.
So first off, I want to thank you guys because you've really done a great job. And I apologize to Daryl because I came in a little bit later. But you did a great job. Daryl provided information on the advantages of the production side. And then Jim went ahead and added some dollars and cents to that, and all that is good. And speaking as a veterinarian, the improvement in health, yeah, that's a good thing. Appreciate that as well. But one word that I didn't hear, and maybe I just missed it, but that is welfare. And speaking on behalf of the pig, which is, I'm on a couple of different welfare committees. Speaking on behalf of the pig, these look like better programs. And when we've got to get into more visibility, more transparency, I think there's an advantage there that's going to be hard to measure. And so if I missed it, I apologize. But if I didn't miss it, I'd like you to comment on that. Speaking on behalf of the pig.
All right, I'll just touch on it real quick. First of all, I apologize. We're in Iowa, and so you heard of all these issues. I mean, I don't know why in the hell did I ever end in Iowa? Because, everybody that has a compromised pig comes to Iowa because we got everything else. So, we have to deal with all this. We're the cesspool of pig production. When I look at welfare, Jerry, I truly look at how can we as an industry defend 15 to 20% pre-wean mortality, or losses, or 25%, if you throw in stillborns. We can't defend that. That's not welfare. That's not treating an animal correctly. So for us, we have to look at better ways. We have to be looking at 10% pre-wean mortality as the top end of what we can accept, because otherwise I think our welfare program, from that standpoint, we aren't treating that piglet correctly. Personally, I think if we can't look at 95% full value pigs going to market, we're not treating that pig as it should be treated. We're making compromises, probably economic or space driven or whatever compromises. We can't justify that. So I did not mention welfare. I'm assuming any time that I'm looking at a program where I'm greatly improving the health of that animal and giving that animal an opportune time to express himself, that I've done the right thing for the pig.
I'd just add one aspect to this discussion, in that part of the driver towards getting away from batch farrowing, at least in some of my practices, was the emphasis on pigs per sow per year. And most of the productivity measures have a pretty good correlation with some welfare outcomes. Probably the most problematic is focusing on pigs per sow per year without looking at survivability and productivity downstream. And in some ways, I think that was the biggest fault in some of the emphases right now of placing so much of a focus on the sow unit as the driving engine, rather than simply being like a feed mill, just obligated to produce high-quality product all the time for the subsequent phases.
And the only thing I would add to that, Jerry, is that that's why we went back to the nurseries, to try to provide a better environment for the pig and better care.
Yeah, one comment or one question on the nursery, from the wean to finish back to the nursery. When we made the change from wean to finish to nursery, a lot of the discussion was, well, we're going to save all this freight and all this pig movement. And in your model, it actually went the other way. You actually saved freight, and some of that was deliberate. But I just thought if you could highlight that a little bit more.
Well, and that's just because we did a better job of placing our facilities. I mean, we did not do a very good job when we were wean to finish. We abused the overstocks. I mean, when we're tight on space, we'll leave them in there an extra week. And then we were, unloading at 9 weeks. I hate to tell you, sometimes 10 weeks. And, yeah, that wasn't good for the pig or for us.
And it sounds to me like, if I was hearing you right in your presentation, that you think there's probably a balance in there. There's probably a percentage you still want to have as wean to finish that gives you some flexibility.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we had went to the PRRS eradication route and we increased wean age, so if we were getting a 15-pound pig, I'd been much more likely to keep a higher percentage of wean to finish in our system.
So the right model may be a blend. Yep. My wife says I like to hear myself talk, so I'll keep asking questions. So anyway, one question, Daryl, I know that people get in the batch system is, in a continuous flow or weekly flow system, I can use nurse sows and I can do some of that sort of stuff. And how do I save some of those pigs that are starving out when I'm in a batch?
You can't pull down. I mean, you can't pull sows down. We will contend that if you take really, really good care of Mama's going to take care of the piglets. On those batch farrows, we're not moving very many pigs at all. I think we just tend to over-move pigs. I mean, the best place for a pig is on its own mother. And so by not moving pigs, we've decreased pre-wean mortality substantially by just saying we're going to limit the amount of pigs we're moving. So although I agree we don't have nurse sows, I'm not too concerned about that at this point in time, because our batch systems tend to be our lower pre-wean mortality. And personally, I think we just got to quit moving so damn many pigs. Just leave them where they're at. I mean, we've seen all the information. The pig performs better in finishing if we don't move it. It's better off if it's on its own mother. We're moving pigs to make ourselves feel good. But I'd like to track it. Some farms, I think we move a pig here, and then the next day it doesn't look quite good, so we move it over here, then we move it to here, and tell me what we've improved.
Yeah.
Nothing. So
I would have a question. Have you ever considered the 5-4 with a 3-day bump system? It's where you farrow 5 batches on a Thursday and then rotate 5 batches farrowing on a Monday, getting pigs out to 20 to 24 days, reducing return to estrus and things like that.
You know, we're just really getting into it, and now the next step is try to make it better. We have one farm that has 288 crates, but then had a small nursery where we put, I believe, 20 crates in, and that works pretty good. That one kind of takes the overflow, and then it weans ahead, and so it weans with the group. There's never pigs that we're holding back in it, and that one's worked pretty nice. No, I can't say that we've looked at it, but that's probably the next step to try get more efficiencies in it. The biggest problem we've had is this farm that has 408 crates. We paired it with this 1,500, and so that worked out pretty good. You know, it's going to produce about 4,500 pigs. The other barn tended to produce about 3,100, and so we're gonna bring those extra 500 pigs back and put it in, and we can continue to fill 2,400 head barns. That 408 crate barn has not weaned under 5,100 pigs for the last 5 batches. 5,100 pigs and 408, 5 by 7 crate. That's putting pigs out the damn door now. I mean, that's as good as you can probably do in that size crate. So we got too many flipping pigs, you know. So that's created the issue for us more now. What we're going to do with the extra pigs.
Yeah, I think that flow program has worked well. We've got a number of clients that have put that in place, and so when you get to the 5th group, you just change your wean date. And so it's you got to be flexible on your weaning date. If you want to keep a constant flow of I wean on Thursday, Friday, that's not going to work. Yep. But if you're willing to adapt, and when you get to the 5th group, then you jump back to a Monday, Tuesday wean, then you can pick those days up, and then you do it again 20 weeks later when you get to the 5th group again. And so that's how that system works. That's how you cheat the days. And I shouldn't say cheat the days. That's how you take advantage of the days and get the extra days.
I would
of
say the biggest
lactation.
challenge we've seen or that we have today is managing the boar studs. It puts a heck of a lot of pressure on a boar stud. As the more farms you get that are on a batch system and you have that mass influx of semen requirement, the stud is where it really has put pressure, and we're trying to work through that now so we can not pull all our batches on Wednesday, Thursday, which everybody wants, so they're not breeding over the weekend. But the last batch went to a Monday, Tuesday, and unfortunately they got to breed on the weekends. But just making sure we got semen available on those big days, because we've got a lot of farms that wean once a week, and they all want to wean on Thursday also. So yeah, the stud is. They're the people that aren't happy as the stud, to be honest.
Yeah, and if you got multiple batch systems, you put them on different weeks so that the stud
you hit
gets...
other weeks, but
It never works out quite that easy, does it?
It works easy when you're sitting in the office. I remember a manager telling me one time, he came in and he sat down, he says, "Don't ever make another damn decision in here without being out in the barn first." And I gave him credit for it, because you can make those decisions sitting in the office. You got to get out in the barn and walk through how it's going to work in fairness to everybody out there.
Other points to consider is that on that bump deal, we gained 1 pound per wean pig. 1 pound per wean pig into the nursery got us 2 extra pounds on the way out. Our return to estrus shortened, getting those sows out to 22 to 24 days. Something to consider.
Greatly appreciate it. Well, we'll take a hard look at it.
Yes, question back here.
Thank you again. Batch farrowing, I will be able to consider it as also as batch breeding. So in such like a scenario, do you normally just use the normal boy exposure method to ensure that your sows and your gates are up in heat, or you do some synchronization? Thank you.
Synchronization.
Oh, synchronization of what we're doing on gilts or on sows?
On sows, I think he's asking maybe if you're using like the Avigel or something like that to help.
Yeah, I mean, we're not, because on the sows, most everything is falling into that period. You know, we'll have some that obviously that don't breed within the 7-day period, and they're going to fall back. We're only going in there and then picking the very best of those sows and then using some matrix on those. To be honest with you, we're unless it's a probably first, second, third, fourth really good parity sow, they get culled. They just kick out the door. And I think that's been beneficial too to some of our production.
Yeah, I think one of the things we've seen with the farms we've taken back to batch is that you probably do end up turning the herd a little faster.
Yeah.
You end
I
up
think
with
we
a
are.
few more culls because sows fall out of the batches, and instead of putting them back in, you just cull them out if you got the availability to gilts, and it depends a little bit on your cost of replacement animal and some of those sort of things. But if you were to look at the records, they would tend to run a little higher replacement rates.
Totally. I would totally agree.
Looks like everybody's getting about meetinged out, and we've had a good meeting. Let's thank the speakers, and if you got any other burning questions, let us know.